I just finished reading this amazing book, Memoirs of a Kamikaze Pilot. And it's an interesting book because it's from the perspective of a Japanese fighter during World War II. Kazuo Odachi was 16 years old during World War II and he wanted to be a pilot. Within 2 years, he became a full-fledged kamikaze pilot for the Japanese Navy. He wrote this book and explained very important details about World War II that I haven't gotten from any American books or American authors. The kamikaze airplanes were these small Mitsubishi airplanes, and it's the same Mitsubishi company that sells cars in America right now. In fact, when I was in college, I had a Mitsubishi Eclipse, and I didn't know that company flourished during World War II when it was making these aircraft for the Japanese Navy. How did pilot Odichi make it out of World War II alive? Those airplanes are very small. And for it to be effective, crashing into an aircraft carrier, he goes into this amazing detail about how it all worked out. So the kamikaze pilots, the ones that would crash into the aircraft, they would have to strap on a 500 kilogram bomb. That's over 1,000 pounds. To have a bomb that big on the airplane, on a small airplane, it couldn't maneuver very well. So the actual kamikaze, the effective ones that would crash into aircraft carrier, couldn't maneuver very well. So those pilots needed an escort. So other kamikaze pilots would have to escort the kamikaze suicide bombers, because if it got into a dogfight with an American pilot, the suicide bomber couldn't do anything because his airplane couldn't maneuver very well because it had this big bomb. So that the escort pilots would have to give cover to the suicide bombers. The author goes into amazing detail about his training and how the pilots would bomb an aircraft carrier and put it out of commission or sink it. They would have to fly and maneuver into a shaft that it was like an elevator shaft that would carry the aircraft from the one deck to the top deck, and they would have to find a way to get right through there, because if they can get right through there, then their airplane could crash right into the engine of the aircraft carrier, and the bomb would blow up the whole engine. It would cause a big fire and potentially sink the aircraft carrier, which they were able to do. It's just amazing because the author, just the explanations of how they did this and their training. So the night before the suicide attacks, what would happen is, the captain of the Navy would come out and he would just kind of read, which pilot would be on the suicide mission and which pilots would be the escorts. And because he was such a good pilot, he was selected a lot of times. He said it was random, and it was potentially because he was a good pilot. He would be selected as the escort as opposed to the suicide kamikaze pilot. In his unit of kamikaze pilots, there were 47 of them, and he was one of the very few that made it out of World War II alive. He had two very good friends, and of those three, he was the only one that made it home. The author goes into what his life was like after World War II, and it was very, very difficult. He had, a lot of stress and trauma from his experience, and it was strange because the kamikaze pilots that made it out alive, there was a very big stigma because Japan lost the war, so there was always that kind of sting. People kind of looked down and blamed the military pilots and infantry soldiers and all of them. It was hard to explain why the kamikaze pilots, the few that made it out alive, why they made it out alive, and it was because they were the escort pilots as opposed to the ones that directly crashed into the aircraft carriers. For most of his life after World War II, he was a police officer. He was engaged in martial arts, and he did eventually come out of his shell, so to speak, and he would meet with other, survivors of World War II, other pilots. He even would meet with American veterans, and they would talk about the war experience and everything. And it wasn't until the last 5 years that he decided to open up his story and talk about it in this book. He's still alive. He's 97 years old right now. He's still alive in Japan. And like I said, it's an amazing book. I promise you're going to love it.